We'll start off with the girls section here because a number of the Stark County teams are still in it here in this tournament mix. So why don't we go over some of the teams that you have been focusing on in the last couple of days who are still in contention for a Sweet 16 spot?
So, Mitch, for up here, we're going to stay on Division One in Northeast Districts 1, 2, and 3. Let's start in Northeast District number 1, where the top seed in this district is the Lady Pups of Canton McKinley High School. And Mitch, they might be one of the hottest teams in the state. This is a team that early on this season dropped a couple games to open the season. They beat a very talented Solon Comets team, which we'll get to Solon here in this segment. But McKinley is the number 2 overall seed in the Super District, and they have advanced to the district championship, which will be played at Maslin Perry High School Friday night, where they will take on the 5th seeded Walsh Jesuit Warriors. That is going to be a thriller, Mitch. The first of 3 potential thrillers we're going to talk about here for girls basketball. McKinley defeated Akron Ellett 66-32 in the district semifinal game 2. On the other side of that bracket, you had Walsh Jesuit defeating Paynesville Riverside 50-40, as I'm going to make sure I can share the screen here for the viewers at home now that I just realized that. So here we have it pulled up. This is Northeast Bracket District 1. So you have Walsh Jesuit and Canton McKinley battling it out to advance to the Sweet 16, the Medina region, next Tuesday night. Now, the Northeast District 1 will play the Northeast District 3 winner. So we're going to jump right to Northeast District 3. In this district championship game, you have the top overall seed Solon Comets. And Mitch, they might be one of the best teams in the state of Ohio right now. I do not believe they've gotten the respect they deserve. They have, if you look at their scores here, Mitch, they have not really had a close game at all. They played in the sectional semifinal game, won 75-16, then an 89-9 victory in the sectional championship. And then they took on Perry in game 1 on Tuesday night, Maslin Perry, and defeated the Perry Panthers 71-35. There was a running clock with 6 minutes to go in the third quarter. And for those there, Mitch, there was a lot of people unaware, but yes, this year is the first year there's a running clock in high school basketball. Now, I highly doubt you're going to see a running clock the rest of the tournament throughout the rest of the season. But the rule is once a team is up by 35 points, the running clock starts.
Yep.
And the running clock does not stop until the team trailing cuts it below 30. Unfortunately, Perry was not able to get below 30. So Solon, the number 1 overall seed, has advanced to the Division 1 Northeast District 3 district championship game on Friday night at Ravenna High School. And who are they going to play, Mitch? They're going to play Jackson. Jackson Lady Polar Bears defeated Hudson 65-33 to kind of end the Cinderella story that Hudson was as the 24 seed, winning their first 2 tournament games, beating Lake and then beating Louisville. Jackson beat Hudson 65-33 on Tuesday night, the second game of that doubleheader at Ravenna. And Mitch, this now sets up a potential instant classic. These 2 teams, Solon and Jackson, met earlier on this season. Solon trailed Jackson for the first 31 minutes and 10 seconds of the ball game. They took their first lead with about 50 seconds to go in the contest and ended up defeating Jackson 54-53 at Jackson High School early December this season. And really, these are 2 teams that are just hot right now, right? Solon's been hot for a long time. Jackson is finally back and healthy. The big 3 of Lauren Pilata, Lena Padabandla, and Megan Campbell are all back and playing well. This is going to be a blast at Ravenna High School. And why I brought up Northeast District 3, the winner of this game will play the winner of Walsh Jesuit and Canton McKinley next Tuesday night at 8:00 at Medina High School. That's the second game of a doubleheader in the Sweet 16. There's a chance, Mitch, that you could see a Federal League rematch in the regional semifinals, much like last year when Jackson played Green, or you could see a rematch between Solon and McKinley. McKinley defeated Solon earlier on this season at the field house in overtime, or Walsh Jesuit could put an end to that, and we could have a new matchup for the first time this season. There's a lot to play for. You have perhaps one of the hottest and best teams in the state in Solon. Jackson, with all the experience of that state Final Four run last year. I am so excited for this game Friday night. I will be at Ravenna calling it. I literally am already excited, and it's Thursday morning as we sit here and record this. And we'll go over to Division 1 Northeast District number 2. We have another regular season rematch, Mitch. The Archbishop Hoban Knights, the 6th seed, will take on the Lady Bulldogs of Green High School. These 2 teams met in the regular season. Hoban defeated Green Hoban defeated Shaker Heights 53-39 in the district semifinal game, and Green defeated a very tough and fourth seeded Shaker Heights Hathaway Brown team to get to the district championship. Mitch, there's a chance that there are 3 Federal League teams in the Division I, Region when we look at Medina next week. If Green, McKinley, and Jackson all win, all 3 of those teams will be playing Tuesday night at Medina High School. Green would play the winner of the Northeast District 4. And like I mentioned, there's a chance Jackson and McKinley could play each other, but we'll have to wait and see. There was no easy game the remaining way here for any of these teams. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be chaotic and it's going to be hectic. And I'm here for it the rest of the way. Obviously, hoping these Federal League teams and teams in Stark County can represent the county well and make a deep postseason run, because I think that makes our job a lot easier and a little more fun and entertaining. But Friday night is going to be fun, either at Maslin Perry High School, Ravenna High School, or Perry High School up on the lake, which is where this game between Green and Hoban will be played. So lots to play for here. Lots of teams still in the area being represented. I can't wait to see what happens.
Federal League will be hosting a number of games here in the next coming days, a number of its own teams still in the mix for the title. Now, there was also some boys action on Wednesday that we'll get to alongside the Tuscarawas County results from this past Tuesday. Now, a lot of the boys sectionals got underway for my area, where you saw on Tuesday night, Strasburg, Sandy Valley, and Malvern still in the sectional mix after beating, respectively, Strasburg beating Central Catholic, Sandy Valley beating Tusky Valley, and Malvern just all over Edison. And you also had Buckeye Trail, the number 9 seed in the Division III East bracket, beating second seeded Martins Ferry. That was a big victory in which Garrett Berger was able to sink a winning free throw with actually 90 seconds left in the game, and the Warriors made a defensive stand to move on to the next round. And then you had on Wednesday, or actually that same night, Minerva getting an overtime victory over Morgan, which Garrett Gonzalez proves himself to be one of the top players, not just in the EBC, but in this entire area, 22 points. You also had Rowan Hoffey, who had 19 points on that game. So that was a big win for the Lions, and as they advance in the Division II sectional bracket. And then on the girls' side, you had River putting an end to Central Catholic's season on Wednesday in the district semis. Riley Knight posting a double-double of 19 points and 12 boards for the Pilots. Central Catholic got to the districts for the first time since 2006. A great season by them, but it comes to an end. Also seeing their season come to an end, the Strasburg Tiger girls, after losing to Hiland by kind of a close score in comparison to other ones, 44-36 on Wednesday night. So the Hawks reached their 12th consecutive East District final. You also had Union Local beating West Muskingum. In that game, you had Reagan Vinskovich being, I believe, the 9th member of her conference's history to score 2,000 points for a high school career, as the Jets won 62-45. And they're going to take on Fort Fry in the district semis after the Cadets beat the Trojans of Tusky Valley 43-34 on Wednesday. So Tusky Valley season come to an end as well. Not a great day for IVC teams in the district level. You also had John Glenn pulling out a huge win over Carrollton in the East District semis in Division II. Emma Dolan making a game-winning layup as time expired to give the Muskies a victory, and they will play top-seeded West Holmes. That game will be this Saturday at 1 o'clock at Dover High School. So we'll have some area play over at Dover. And then I want to talk about this game, Mitch, because you were there that night. The boys action that Jackson had. You mentioned Jackson beating Akron Ellett to advance in the Northeast 2 sectional semifinal. Mitch Feinfrock, 21 points in the first half on 7 3-pointers, and 83-50 Jackson pulls off over Ellett. Willoughby South is going to have a lot of offense to have to handle this coming Saturday.
Mitch, you texted me last night once I sent the tweet out at the halftime update.
Yeah.
Akron Ellett played Jackson tough in that first quarter. You have to give the Orangemen of Ellett High School a lot of credit. And then they ran into one of the best shooting performances I've ever seen in a half in Mitch Finnefrock. He had 3 made 3-pointers in the first quarter. And Mitch, it's pretty common that you see Mitch Finnefrock pop up in a box score for 2 to 4 made threes a game. He hit 7 in the first half, Mitch. He hit 4 in the second quarter. He was 7 of 12 from behind the arc in the first half alone. There was a couple heat checks in there, and Mitch, even the misses there was a couple that were halfway down and popped out. He was on fire last night. And this is just a sophomore, Mitch. Funny, his name is Mitch Finnefrock too. There's just a lot of greatness in that name, I think. But it was a spectacular performance from Finnefrock. It really allowed Jackson to get some breathing room in the opening round of the sectional semifinals. And Mitch, you see it a lot. And this will be an instance here as Jackson now welcomes in the 32nd seeded Rebels of Willoughby South High School on Saturday night. Jackson's a team that likes to play right away. They want to try to get their legs back under them. They want to try to get in a rhythm. And Mitch Finnefrock did that for Jackson. I would have to think he may have had more. He only shot 1 in the second half, came up empty-handed. He did hit a layup, so he finished with 23 points in that 83-50 win last night over Akron Ellet. But because Jackson was up by such a wide margin, a lot of the starters got pulled early. A lot of bench players came in. Some guys that were on the JV team this year that are dressing for the playoff run got some action last night in the fourth quarter. But a spectacular shooting performance from Mitch Finnefrock. And you mentioned it, Jackson now will advance to take on Willoughby South in the sectional championship Saturday night at Jackson. And I'm going to share the screen here, Mitch, once again for the viewers watching at home. And if you're listening, I'll describe it the best I can. But we saw Canton McKinley win last night, Mitch. So they advance and they will take on Nordonia. But staying in this Northeast 2 Division I bracket, Aurora plays the top-seeded Bulldogs of Stowe High School. You have Dover, a team in your area, hosting Painesville Riverside. I know earlier this week we were trying to figure out who they would be hosting. We now have that opponent. So I know you'll probably have some more on that. Green will now play Warren Harding, who defeated Boardman last night, 44-35. The winner of Green and Harding and Jackson and Willoughby South, Mitch, will play in the district semifinal next Thursday, March 2nd at 7 o'clock at Alliance High School. And we had already kind of foreshadowed this, Mitch. It could be a Federal League rematch between the two teams that tied atop and split the Federal League crown, Green and Jackson. And boy, oh boy, how crazy would that be? It's going to be a lot to win that district as Stowe is in there, and Stowe is, Mitch, they're legit. There's really not much more I can say. Stowe beat both Jackson and Green this regular season. We'll have to see who they play should they advance the district championship. I mentioned the Canton McKinley Bulldogs. They defeated Euclid last night, 65-50. They now play Nordonia, who's the 3rd overall seed. Mitch, if the Canton McKinley Bulldogs decide to show up and play the way they're capable of, we might be talking about our first upset in boys basketball here in these districts. McKinley seeded 13th. I give them a realistic chance against Nordonia, but Nordonia is very talented. They just beat Green last week, held the Green Bulldogs to 34 points in that contest. They're a very talented and gritty defensive team. So we'll have to wait and see. Hoban won Maslin with a very impressive win last night. They knock off Hudson 52-50. They advance to take on Hoban. So you have Maslin versus Hoban in basketball now. We saw that this year in the regional final in football. We know there's no love lost between those two schools when it comes to any sport played between the two. And GlenOak, Mitch, in our big time sports game of the week last night, you had Dave Sheets and Troy Richardson on the call.
Yes.
For a thriller. GlenOak defeats Lake 44-39 in a game that baskets were hard to come by. It was back and forth. Lake with a lead after one, GlenOak with a lead at the halftime. I saw it was 30-30 at one point. And GlenOak not upsets. They were the top seed. Lake unable to pull the upset on GlenOak. And so now, after they had split the regular season series with both teams winning on the opponent's home court, GlenOak defends home court last night. They will now host Austin Town Fitch on Saturday night in the sectional championship. And looking at some other Stark County teams here, you have Louisville hosting Solon on Saturday night in the Northeast 3 Division I district. And Hoover will travel to Walsh Jesuit Saturday night in the sectional championship. Keep in mind, Hoover has already beaten Walsh Jesuit once this year. So that'll be a game. Throw the seeds out the window at this point, Mitch, because I think it's safe to say you can tell by some of these teams advancing, the regular season record really doesn't show you or tell you the full story about some of these teams. Hoover's one of them. They played in a tough conference. I'm excited to see if Hoover can go 2-0 against a very talented Warriors team from Walsh Jesuit High School, and then potentially play Louisville, who, Mitch, might have one of the best scores in all of the brackets in Northeast Ohio, and Will Aljancic. I know he's itching to get back and make a deep run. Last year, they were They had their season ended to St. Vincent St. Mary's in the regional final. Both of them now moving from Division II to Division I this year. And there's a chance those two schools could meet in the district championship as they are both in the same district. But lots of basketball to be played, lots of great basketball to be played. And it's unfortunate that we're at the time where it's win or go home for some of these teams. But this is where we're at. And we could talk Monday and have a lot of Federal League teams remaining, Mitch, or we could talk Monday and have a lot of Federal League teams out of the postseason because some other teams were able to pull upsets.